Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. Here we are with episode 98 of Behind the Camera. Episode 100 is right around the corner, and I cannot wait for you guys to see what we have in store. It is going to be a very special episode, so stay tuned for episode 100. But before we get into today's show, if you would like to follow Behind the Camera across social media, you can find my link tree in the description, which will take you to Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and also has the link for where you can buy my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. This is available in both paperback and ebook, and is free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. And if you would like to see more of the behind the scenes side of the podcast, you can also support the show on Patreon. For £3 a month, you'll get access to extra content, including a Patreon exclusive series, your name added to the wall of patrons at the end of every episode of Behind the Camera, and much more. But now, getting into today's conversation. Today, I am joined by musician Mark Winters. Mark's original background is in science, where he holds a degree in aerospace engineering, but at his core, he's always been a creative after his grandmother introduced him to poetry at a young age. Now a touring rock musician, Mark travels North America performing songs which hold a blend of science and poetry, and of course, positive energy. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. But now, here's the interview. Mark, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. How are we doing?
I'm doing amazing, Andy. Just had a beautiful turn of weather here in Sugarland, Texas, South Texas, and got out for a run with my dogs, and I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good.
Love that. Absolutely love to hear that. So yeah, you are a poet, musician, all with a degree in aerospace engineering, which is an incredible mix. I'm very, very excited to talk about this. So let's go right back to the beginning, man. So let's start with your musical journey. Like, and how did you get into music? Yeah, and into your career.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know, it's like this little brief momentary flashes of creativity in my youth. Um, a little poetry here, a little painting there, but nothing musical, other
Mm.
than just being you know, a, a consumer of music. I love music. It moves me. It changes my emotions. It, potentiates the ones that I'm having. It's like a mystical, magical force in the world. And so, yeah, I've always been a listener, and um, didn't really, uh, didn't really create or make music myself until 2011.
Mm.
Um, I really wanted to do something musical and had never done anything, and so I gave myself a goal to learn a song to play for my wife for our anniversary.
Amazing.
And it was an incredible journey to learn a new song, and to learn a song, the first song ever that I'd ever learned, and to perform it for my wife in our favorite Italian restaurant. And it hooked me, man. It made me an addict. I became obsessed with just the feeling I got when I was sharing music with other people as a performer. It was pretty awesome, man.
Ah, that's beautiful, man. I love that. What was the song that you learned?
I learned a song called "What You Give" by this old rock band named Tesla.
Hmm.
They got a cool name, Tesla, and that kind of hits my nerdy vibe a little bit anyway. But the song, being a poet, words really matter a lot to me, and
Yeah.
so the lyrical content is super important in a song, especially when I'm singing it. And so the song, the chorus is, "It's not what you got, it's what you give.
Hmm.
It's not the life that you choose, it's the life that you live. It's only what you give that's important," right? And I just love that. It was just a heartfelt gesture to my wife that, I'm a giver. That's my language of love. And yeah, I really enjoyed the lyrics.
Yeah, man. That's incredible. I love that. It's such a sweet story. And like, So then it sounds like you've been like a creative then your entire life, especially with like the poetry and everything else. And was that just something that fascinated you from a young age, and then obviously culminated in becoming a musician just from that?
Yeah. So, um, it's one of those things. It's almost like, yeah, like I remember my grandparents had this old timey turntable with the little vinyl records, and the needle would skip every now and then. Yeah, that was kind of my artistic moment in my life, growing up. I was super into sports and love math and science, and so my childhood was dominated with football and track and tennis, and math and science and applied physics and sort of tearing things apart and putting them back together again. So I don't really, from a creativity point of view, I had these like really weird moments where like my grandma, we were at four boys in my family, and we are
Mhm.
in East Texas, and my grandma uh, was an amazing influence in my life, my dad's mom, and I just remember waking up in her sewing room, writing poetry with her, and wondering how I got there and why I was writing a poem about lilies because I'm this rambunctious 5-year-old boy, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And then I I looked at my creation and just had this urge to read it to her because I was proud of it, and it made me feel special and connected to share that, and so these little blips in my record player going every now and then. My grandma and I would write poems back and forth, and she taught me to paint, and so you know I have this little every now and then creative moments, and then the other part of my life is sort of dominating the scene for me for the most part, and so I didn't really embrace the inner artist that's in me. I didn't
Mhm.
let it out. I just kept it cooped up until I really started down the musical path.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that when you have that sort of creative background, especially through family, it is something that even if it kind of goes away for a while, it sticks with you. Like, even if it's the back of your mind, it sticks with you forever. It's obviously evident here with, everything that you've done in recent years. So, but in terms of on the other side of that, in terms of, being fascinated by like maths and science and, ultimately getting your degree in aerospace engineering. And did this feel like the sort of natural progression for you, given like where, like, say you were like sort of post high school, for example?
Yeah, everything felt really natural in college. I played tennis in college and I studied engineering. The more and more I learned about calculus and the more and more I learned about differential equations and applied physics, especially in the aerospace field, computational fluid dynamics, I loved sort of unraveling the mysteries of the way the world worked
Mhm.
around me. I think it helped me understand like what was happening about surfing or rollerblading or racing a motorcycle. The certain feelings. I love pulling G's, and what is that, and how it really helped me understand the world a lot.
Yeah.
And so it felt very natural to go to pursue a career in aerospace. And I really enjoy uh, the the you know, a lot of the nerdy little elements that, are fascinating to me because they help me understand the world. Um, I did find, in both business endeavors and in the technical part of my job, you know, I loved these rich people and personalities, but I didn't find very many of them in aerospace engineering. There were a few, some test pilots who were cool and whatever, but I noticed that I sort of gravitated, to people who were maybe a little more creative than I was
Mhm.
finding in my immediate friend group. So yeah, it was very natural doing the thing. It was it's kind of I took a big left turn at Albuquerque, right? When I took took a step into the musical world for sure.
Yeah, and obviously, like, with your music, you have four albums, and but I noticed that there's an element of that kind of, you can tell that you've got that scientific mind that goes into your lyrics as well. There's a lot of, like, I was listening to Boundary Layer, your second
Okay.
album, and there was a lot of it. I was kind of like, I feel like I'm learning a lot here. Like I feel like I'm learning, like I'm
Oh, that's
subconsciously
hilarious.
learning about
Yeah,
things. And
let me get my calculator, my pocket protector out, right? And part of my observations in the world are, well, my wife would tell you they're overly scientific.
mhm,
I see things, I'm like, oh, hey, the light's refracting through the window, and the red spectrum is this frequency, and so I'm thinking about it in a way that is nerdy, and so I have to actually tone that down. Believe it or not, Andy, when I'm writing, when I write a song, the first time when I pick a title or something that I'm writing against. Uh, it's something that I've learned to let the inner poet in me out
mhm,
to create some relational elements, which is interesting because a lot of times I'll find a juxtaposition between like philosophy and science. Like Boundary Layers is a good example. That song, the title song for that album, uh, it's about breaking through boundaries in your
yeah,
life, and we all have to do that. It's a philosophical thing, but it's also a part of the behavior of particles that are in a fluid, moving through the fluid and interacting with another object in the fluid, like like air, approaching the surface of a wing, in an aerospace context, right? And you can, as you get closer and closer to the surface, you actually enter the boundary layer of the wing, because as particles are hitting the wing, they're swirling and they're creating pressure, and so you, the particle, when you encounter that, you sort of slow down, and then when you emerge from the boundary layer, you emerge in a new direction with some extra velocity, right? And so
okay.
very much like how you would approach a philosophical boundary and break through it.
Yeah, I love the fact that there is a lot, like a deeper meaning to the title of Boundary Layer. Like even further than breaking through your own personal boundaries as well. There's a lot that can go into that. That's incredible, man. And like, would you say that there was an element of you yourself kind of breaking through personal boundaries in terms of writing that record?
I lost you for a second
Oh,
there, Andy.
sorry, yeah, I see a bit of a lag there. So with writing Boundary Layer, like would you say that there was like an element of you yourself pushing through and breaking through your own sort of boundaries that were might have been in your life at the time of writing the record?
Yes, exactly that too. So, I think, um, for me uh, as a late in life musician, right? So I didn't study music when I was two,
Mm-hmm.
right? I didn't have piano recitals like everybody else. And so as an adult, you're learning a new thing. I think you really feel like an imposter a lot when uh, you're casually doing something, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter, you don't feel it. But all of a sudden, when it's a career choice, right, you're
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, okay, well, I didn't do this when I was two, like everybody else, and so I have this. Uh, a lot of times, I think we put it on ourselves. I've got
Mm-hmm.
this artificial boundary, but it's really me not wanting to be bad at something like I didn't care when I was a kid. Who cares how bad you are, right? You keep learning and you get better, right? So as an adult, you have to break through this mental barrier in your own head, like, hey, okay, you don't know how to play the guitar. You got to learn, and you got to play a lot, and you got to be bad, and you got to play in public bad, and over time you'll get less bad. And so as I went through this journey with myself, I think that was one of the great personal boundaries I had to unlock. Is it's okay to just be organic and natural and be
Mm-hmm.
you, and wherever you are in that moment is okay,
Yeah.
right? Just keep working, keep the right discipline, keep the right emotions, right? What are peers, that you're out in the world interacting with? What are they doing? What are their routines? Adopt as many of those as you can, and over time you'll become a professional in your field. And so
Mhm.
that was really a big boundary for me that I had to break. And then I think, there's probably a whole lot of uh, a lot of the pop culture, I guess, would say, hey, you need, uh, they want to discover a musician when you're 14 years old, right? If you're 22 years old, oh my goodness, you're old. Like you're at the end of your shelf life, dude. Sorry, Andy. Your career's over. So for me, I'm a determined and resourceful person, and so just uh, finding ways to share and build a community around my music and the positive energy that I represent um, has been, its own barrier to break through. How do you do it, right? I've got no
Yeah.
one giving me the recipe. I've got to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And like obviously like you have that like niche with you're putting like your kind of scientific elements like into your music and like your lyrics and poetry as well. And like at any point did that ever kind of feel like a risk going into that? Like did it ever feel like maybe you're kind of going too out there with it being obviously a career choice, but obviously it's like it's worked for sure, but was there any kind of concerns at the time?
Yeah, you don't. I think one of the things when you're you know, learning from scratch and doing it yourself, you don't really just don't know what works. And so,
Hmm.
you'll hear in my early album, Slipstream, I was exploring genres, right? I have some heavier rock, some lighter rock songs, an acoustic song, just sort of, where is my voice? I don't know, Andy. I've never written songs before, right? I never sang before. Okay, let me figure out where it is. And then over time, uh, I learned more and more about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of risks getting it wrong. Some people tell me, hey, you should get rid of all the, stuff you did, when you were exploring where you wanted to go, right? And yeah, only have certain songs or certain assets out in your public, facing material. Um, and for me, part of the fun of this has been discovering this side of myself and
Mm.
sharing with people, you know, these little journeys that I'm taking in writing songs and touring. And so I really like that part. And I get a lot of people who ask me, uh, how are you doing it? Right? I mean, I'm out touring, I'm releasing music, I've pivoted my career. How do you get your head around doing something like that? Because they want to do it too,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And I love sharing where I am and helping people on their journey as well. So yeah, a lot of risk when I put music out. Uh, you know, uh, there's a lot of risk in being overly scientific. And I learned, right? Like I wrote a song called "Speed of Light."
Mm.
It's on my E equals MC squared album. Um, it's about perspective. It's written in honor of Albert Einstein and his discovery of relativity. This sort of bike ride moment for
Mm.
him, and how sometimes we feel like I felt like my life was moving in slow motion. Even though I was running really hard and working really hard, I felt like I just wasn't getting anywhere, which is just a perspective thing, right? But this song is a little uh, slightly maybe too poetic, and slightly it's got a polyrhythm in it, right? So it's got these two overlapping rhythms, and so you know I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I enjoy playing it. It's hard to play. It's very satisfying. But it might connect with like 1 in 10 people. And my song "Fake Gravity," which it's about the forces of attraction, and it's a little nerdy little love song. Uh, yeah, I think that's a newer song of mine. It's got a little more relatability, and so maybe 6 in 10 people who hear that like it.
Mhm.
And so I'm learning how to be more relational and still true to myself, just by learning to write better, which makes new songs less risky to release.
Mhm. Excuse me. So then, in terms of like finding your voice, so let's say you have Slipstream, your first album, and would you say that that's kind of like the journey so far, in a sense, where like of how you kind of got there, and then boundary layer, breaking through the boundaries, finding your voice, and then I mean E equals MC squared as an album name. It kind of says you found your voice, your theme at that point, really. I think, but like, was it a matter of just kind of having writing the music, putting it out, and then, or was it a lot of going by feel in terms of, yeah, I think I want this song to be on this record?
Yeah, usually I have, um, I have in the beginning, I was just sort of writing, as much as I could,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of trying to curate the best songs and arrange the songs in the best way possible for me. As I've sort of landed in this, I'll call it, uh, folk pop, acoustic rock lane, right? So my peers, I know people ahead of me, but sort of in the same lane, Ed Sheeran or Vance Joy or John
Mm-hmm.
Mayer, um, influences of mine, or people who are in a similar lane. Um, I find there's a certain amount of relatability to a track that really has to be there so people can hear the message well.
Yep.
And so, uh, I have a set of things that I want to say. I write poetry every day. I have I have a great productive creative mind, and so I've got a lot of topics. And so the hardest thing for me is sort of sorting them out and arranging them to say what I want to say at the moment,
Yeah.
right? Because I have a lot of choices, and so just finding the right thing that I want to say. Like I wrote a song on my last tour, um, about the feeling. Okay, so if you came to a live show of mine, Andy, I would want you to walk away with a few extra protons, right? Because I think about that as just sharing my positivity with you,
Yeah.
right? And so, and so I have a little wristband. It says, uh, you know, think like a proton, shine with me, and so that's my little signature merch item. Um, and I, but it was sort of more of a feeling of me imparting this to people, and I wanted to be able to share that thought process a little better, and so I wrote a song about shining with me, right? And finding the right energy, in your group to make you feel better and to connect with people. And it's a song that will probably come out next year, but I play it live
Yeah.
because it's my feeling live, right? And so sometimes when I've been out touring, I've found like emotions that I need to share, and I just didn't have a song that helped me do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the case for most of the songs that I've written. They've had some emotional basis at the time that I needed to share, and I was trying to find a way to let it out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously when your turn, like, would you then write a lot of music while you're out on the road, especially because I'm sure turn is an emotional time in itself. Like, you're away from home, away from family, and yeah, as enjoyable as it might be seeing so many different parts of, your country and the world, there's a lot of emotional weight that carries with that. Like, so do you ever write like a lot of music on the road?
Yeah, I do. I get inspired often. It's there's so many great tools today. You're out driving and you can pop your voice memo open and just sing a melody you're hearing, or you can dictate to your phone, lyrics for a song that or a poem that you're seeing a certain, you know, formation in the clouds, or the window, is, you know, the lights coming through the window in a certain way, or your hands are cold on the steering wheel, right? Or, so there's all these emotions that you can kind of feel. And while you're traveling, it's pretty easy now to do all of that stuff. So yeah, I write a ton, and I find lots of inspiration out in the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, I love that as well because with the themes surrounding your song, you have that kind of emotional depth, but also you put in the scientific depth into it as well. So like, it's almost as if there's inspiration from every possible angle you can think of, which is just like, I love that because there's no end to creativity, and nor should there be. Like, I think, with creativity, having a creative mind, you're like, well, imagination knows no bounds, right?
Yeah, that's probably, when I read, I love reading science fiction and
Mhm.
fantasy. The more elaborate and crazy it is, the more I enjoy it. I love creative things. So yeah, I think that's if I'm sitting down to do a co-write with someone, you know, I usually have, lots of idea choices for us to think about, you know, collaborating on. So yep, I think that's one of my superpowers.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to then creating a set list for a headline show, like how do you structure that, like based around like your four albums and what you want to play, or would there be like a sort of, depends on the tour itself, or what sort of factors go into creating your set lists?
Uh, yeah, I think of a set list as sort of an emotional arc,
Mm-hmm.
so you know, uh, most of the time, because my act is, I'm small and I'm growing an audience. You may have heard one of my songs or something like that. You may have heard, or seen some social media and
Mm-hmm.
want to come out to a show to sort of check the act out. And so I try to be mindful that not everybody may know my catalog. And so I think uh, very much about like the tempo I'm going to play a song at,
Yeah.
right? It may be a more upbeat tempo, but it might be harder to follow the lyrics if it's too upbeat. So I might slow it down a little bit in a theater or listening room. Um, as you probably can imagine, I have a story about every song. Why I wrote it and where I wrote it and how I wrote it. And I love sharing those. And a lot of times my songs start maybe as haikus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the form of poetry that I like to write. Um, and so when I'm thinking about, a journey, my first goal is just to connect us all. And so something that's relational. In the beginning, you might hear me. I have a poem I write about sort of I've written about, just shared space and, that I'm happy that we're all here together and I'm going to get a chance to share a little, you know, positive energy with you. And that's my hope. Um, and then from there, you know, there's an emotional journey that I try to take us all on together to pick everybody up and just appreciate staying in the rhythm with everyone. Have a song about that, and the way in which we put out energy together. Have a song about signals, like we're radio towers. And so I try to take people on a journey. I don't know, like it's a movie or something, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna go through a movie together, and I'm gonna share that journey with you. And then uh, I have a few songs that are a lot more introspective. I might have one of those in the middle, and then pick things up towards the end. And at the end, I want to play, you know, two or three bangers at the very end to get some energy out there. And so people, when they're leaving, they're feeling, like they just had a great experience, and they're leaving with some extra positive energy.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible. I love that. Yeah, and I think that's what like a good gig is, isn't it? A good energy, good vibe across the place. Everyone just like, yeah, I think you can go to a concert and not necessarily know the act that who is headlining. You might just want a good night out to listen to some live music, and you come away, you know, with your new favorite act. And I think that happens so much. Like I've seen that before. That's happened to me before. I can tell you that. And um, when you tell the stories of, when you tell the stories of your music, do you give it like a sort of brief little synopsis before playing it, or do you sort of like let the music tell the story as a win?
yeah, I'd say it depends on how intimate the performance
Uh
is.
huh.
So if we're in a listening room, right, then I'm going to take some time. I'm going to tell you, I wrote this song, this next song coming out of mine, called "All in the Rhythm." I wrote it uh, in Zion National Park. I lost my wife in the middle of the park. I just got distracted by so much amazing beauty in the park that I lost her. We were out hiking together, and um, and so I might tell the story about me losing her and finding her, and then writing a poem to remind myself not to lose your wife, right? Or I might just, if I have your attention and it's a listening, I might tell you that story. And it's a very heartfelt story. But if we're out and I'm like, I just played a show at the rodeo here in Houston. If I'm playing a show at the rodeo and there's a lot of foot traffic, as well as people who might have come to see me, right? Then I might just say, "Hey, y'all, it's time to get all in the rhythm." If you get out of rhythm, you might lose somebody you care about. So stay in it with me. And then boom, we're playing the song, and then I might have a little extended intro for it just to get
Mhm.
us all, you know,
Yeah.
rocking
Cool.
together. So it kind of depends on the format.
Mm. No, of course. I think that that definitely takes a real good awareness of like your audience, especially like by reading the room. It's just that like yeah, the intimacy of a venue certainly take out. Are these people here? For a really sort of nice soft night of music, or they here to party? Like there's a big difference
Yeah.
between the two sorts of things, and I love that. And speaking of shows, you're about to go on a absolute mammoth North American tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Good Vibes Highway Tour. So that is starting, I believe, on the 26th of March. But
Yep.
you're going
A
all
week
the
from
way,
today.
week from today. Yeah, wow. And you're going all the way through to June 27, but with obviously a few breaks in between for holidays and stuff. And how did that tour come about, man?
Yeah, I started touring last year as my first real touring experience, and I had a spring and a fall tour. And in the spring I went west, and in the fall I went east, and it was a lot of just new experiences for me, new
Mm-hmm.
venues, new places, and I really loved it. And I got great feedback along the tour route, and the a lot of the venues I played at wanted me to come back the
Oh,
next
brilliant.
year, and so there's a lot of follow up in the tour this year, right? So the spring and fall tour, a lot of new places too, and I'm learning a lot more about how to connect with communities, other musicians to build a ticket, to get people out, to really, connect with my fan base and get them out for shows. Um, and so, you know, I heard a lot about how to connect with your audience. And I think you can do some of that with social media. You can do some of that with live performances. And for me, I found a way to sort of work hard at both, so I can find you know my positive vibe tribe, as I call them. So come on out and do the thing. And I think that's I'm going to play 130 shows this year,
Wow.
spring and fall combined, and I'm super excited about it. But it takes a year to build a tour, so
Yeah.
it's an endeavor.
Of course, of course, and so you mentioned there you're going to some familiar places and then seeing some new places, and like on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about like going back to these places and seeing the new places and even getting some more new inspiration as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure that they have a number for me to give you on that. It's I don't know, 11 or something. It's so amazing to be out. Um, I think there's maybe I have the heart of an explorer. I love to be out and seeing the new.
Hmm.
Um, and I also am very curious, and I learn a lot from just watching what other people do who are successful, and learning to build a community is new to me. So
Hmm.
as I'm out and playing in an area, um, there's the newness and the beauty of the place that I love, and the people I get to meet. It's really cool. And then I get to craft a community, and so now when I come back, I get to experience that community, and I get to grow that community, and
Yeah.
that's a new experience too for me. And so I really, what I hope to do as I continue, and I did this a few times in my tour last year. We had a community event along my tour route where everyone met up and volunteered at a food pantry
Wow.
together, right? And so that sort of thing, I love to to be able to connect at that level with the
Yeah.
community as I'm out touring. But it was only a few. I wasn't able to do it, as regularly as I like, because I just don't have a way to connect with people at the moment
Hmm.
uh, as much as I'd like.
Oh, that's incredible, though, and I certainly think it's a fantastic way to kind of give back. Especially by doing that. Like, because I don't think you'd find like too many musicians would do something like that. Yes, they have the community events, but in a way that it's like giving back like that. Like, I don't think you see a lot of. So that's obviously incredibly admirable, man. And with this upcoming tour, would you possibly ever see this as a gateway to maybe a future tour overseas, or maybe going into Europe, or even further to like Asia, Australia, etc.?
I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to do that, Andy. I'd say I'd be open to it. For me, um, I'm in the working hard, paying my dues phase
Hmm.
here in the U.S. And so I'd say I'm open to, I love going up into Canada. I didn't really intend to go into Canada. I played like 5 shows there last year, and then this year I've got like 20 shows there. So it's been very kind to me. The Canadian people have been inviting me to come and perform. So I'd say I had the same experience. I love Europe. I'd never been to Australia. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go to. I've been to Asia a few times, but never to play music. I'd love to
Hmm.
do that. So yes, I'd love to get out. I love experiencing new places. I wouldn't know where to start doing it as a tour in Europe or something. It'd be a
Hmm.
whole nother level of learning and I have to figure out.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Because that's the thing. It is one thing going across America, Canada, but at the same time, like the network you build through doing that is like it's such a powerful thing. As I'm sure, obviously, over the last few years, is something that you realize yourself building your community. But the people you meet, like sometimes you never realize how well connected they are, and it's especially
Yeah.
like within the music industry, people who are concert goers and things like that. Like it's, but I mean, I certainly would love to see it happen for you for sure. That I definitely would, love to definitely check out a live show in the future. Um, and there was actually another last thing I wanted to touch on as well. So, and I ask as many musicians this question as I possibly can because I always love getting the insight into what they sort of where their kind of minds at with that. So, what I would like for you to do for me is build your ideal headline show. So you're the headliner, and you get two supports, one opener, and then you also have to pick the venue.
So I'm the headliner, 2 supports, and 1 opener. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And then
Okay.
also you get the choice of venue as well.
Oh my goodness. Um, well, the venue's going to have to be Red Rock Amphitheater. It's in Moab. It's like, it's a crazy, amazing place.
Yep.
So it'd have to be there. Just because I love the environment, and I've discovered several people that I love as acts there. Um, I would have a hard time with the lineup because I can't like I'd love to play uh, with John Mayer, but
Mhm.
well, I'm not going to be the opener, and I'm not going to be the headliner and him the
It
opener, right?
doesn't have to be realistic, man. It's just
Okay,
your
okay, okay.
dream,
If
your
we're in
dream.
Fantasyland, yes. Okay, then John Mayer, Jacob Collier would be there, and the Red Clay Strays, um, and then Stephen Wilson Jr. That would be my dream concert to have all of us on a ticket. Yeah, that would be
That's
that would be phenomenal.
I love that. I love that. And that's probably the quickest I've ever been given an answer for that. A lot of genuine. I love that. Like every single person I've asked that before, they've really had to think on it, and like I kind of think it's like not something that you should be able to really answer that quickly, but I think it just shows that you've got that dreamer in you. You're really kind of being like, yeah, this is like you mentioned, you're in the same lane as all these artists. It's and no, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I admire all those acts for different reasons, and I think it would be just phenomenal to play a show at Red Rock with them. That would be like,
No, for
yeah.
sure, for sure. No, fully believe that it could happen. But Mark, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Just before we wrap up, just for the interest of the audience, I would just like to give you the floor to plug yourself and your work and where we can find you, and especially, of course, your upcoming tour.
I lost you for a second there. You're back now.
Oh, sorry, that's okay. That's all right. I'll go again. Um, yeah, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera. Thank you so much for your time. Just before we wrap up, just for the interest of the audience, I would just like to give you the floor to plug yourself, your work, and especially your upcoming tour. All this will be in the description, but obviously it would be nice to hear it from yourself.
Well, thank you, Andy, for having me. It's been a pleasure hanging out and chatting with you. If you're interested in finding out more about my act, you can find me at markwintersmusic.com. If you want to ride along in the Good Vibes Highway tour, you'll find the tour listing dates there and the ticketing links there. And my email group is there as well if you want to join the Positive Vibe Tribe. Love to have you ride along with me with some behind the scenes thoughts, in my email list. I'll be touring here in the spring, going west and north into Canada, and in the fall going east and then north on the other side of Canada. And I'd love to have you guys out. If you want some extra protons in your life, come join me for a show, and I'd love to say hi in person.
Amazing stuff. Yes, definitely be sure to check out Mark and his work, especially, and for my American audience, definitely go to a show. Go to a show. I implore you, go to a show. Once again, Mark, thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Andy, thank you for having me on Behind the Camera.
My pleasure. And there you have it for episode 98 of Behind the Camera. Massive thank you to Mark Winters for his time and for sharing his story. If you'd like to hear more from Mark, check him out wherever you stream your music, and also check his tour dates if you want to catch him live if you're in the local area. As always, thank you to all patrons for your support. Paid or followed, you're massively appreciated. And of course, if you would like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, check out my Linktree in the description for all socials and my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, which is out now. Thank you for listening, for the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.